Finally getting into some cooler temps here in Texas, and it's the time of year where I go through and move out of a day hiking pack that's something like this into something with a little more capacity. So today we're going to go out and set up a new bag for winter hiking. Let's check it out. It's a nice day, so I thought we'd go outside and do this. All right, so the pack that we're using, this is a Nomad pack by Condor. I think this is a 25 liter. It's pretty light. I've tried a bunch of different packs. Honestly, just a day pack for me, it actually fits incredibly comfortably. I love the way it carries. So for this winter, this is the bag I'm going to carry. Right, so before we get inside the pack, we'll just kind of go through and just check out a couple things that are on the outside of it. First and foremost, probably the most visible thing I've got out here, I do have the Motorola Defy personal locator beacon on. I know there's kind of mixed opinions about whether or not these are going to continue to be utilized. Right now it's still working like a champ, so I'm still riding with it before I buy something else. I do have a newer iPhone, so I've got the satellite communication on there as well if I need to, but so far still working great. This bag does come with two really long pockets down the side of it, which are pretty easy to access. In here I do keep just a regular sort of Nalgene bottle for my extra water, which I utilize pretty often. And on the other side, got a frequent flyer that usually ends up in a lot of my bags just because I love it so much. It's just an old Grail that I've been using for quite some time, and I do have the actual Pathfinder Self-Reliance Outfitters Grail cook kit with this nest down inside of here, and that fits down the side of here. So if I need to cook something while I'm out or just need to boil water, I at least have the capacity to do that, so a little bit of redundancy that goes along with my Grail. Now, diving into the bag, we'll start at the very front up here. This is just a little front pouch. It does have the ability for you to unbuckle here and drop down, and I typically will put like an extra layer in here, like a hoodie or just some kind of mid-weight layer that goes in here, because I do have a bigger layer inside here, but that's usually what I use this pouch for. If there's not room for it to go inside, quite honestly, there's typically room inside. So come through this little front pouch up here. A couple things up here. One is a little light knife that's relatively close together. So this is the little BPS knife. I've been using it now for quite some time, and you can actually see here it's beat up quite a bit because I do use it in class a lot. It's just super light, so I'm assuming if I'm out in the winter, if I'm going to need something, it may be a little bit more robust than the Swiss Army knife that I always have on my keychain. So I at least have a little fixed blade knife up here. Nothing too crazy, but it is a full tang knife. The rest of this pouch is really just fire. So I have a little bitty fire kit here that's in a little zippable bag here that I ordered these things off Amazon. Just a handful of odds and ends in here. A little waterproof tube I've got. And this should be just some storm matches in. Yep. And striker. And then I have a Bic lighter inside here, and then just a little bit of tinder. Not anything too crazy. Just a little bit of fire. But then on the front of having a little bit of redundancy, I do have one pull start fire in here. So you can go through and just pull the tabs on it. And this is the lazy person's fire. It's going to burn for about a half an hour. If you can't get a fire lit with this, you probably need to not be in the woods. And then inside here, I also do have a little bitty cook grate, just in case I'm out and again wanting to boil water. I can kind of set that up on here if I don't want to put it right down in the flame. So it's really all that's in this pouch up here. It's just kind of all, really just all fire and that one little cutting tool. I'm moving around to a bigger pouch up here, and again this is just up front, and this is just a school tear-off patch I just tossed on here. I have a little battery bank in here. I think this was like 2,500 milliamps. I forget what the brand is. I even bought. I've had this thing for several years now. It's just kind of a little simple one that I can toss in. I don't carry a big one when I'm day hiking. I do carry one backup Batterix power cord. That's just a single-use item, but this is my default, and this is my backup for it. I have one extra pouch of liquid IV that's just left in there from a previous hike, and then I have one rechargeable, USB rechargeable headlamp that's in here, and the cables are inside here, and that is it that's in this front pouch up here. So it's really basically just electronics. I like to have all that stuff on the outside of the bag and really accessible, because if I need it, I don't want to have to rifle around for it too much. Now getting inside that big pouch, instead of just a little front sleeve here, this is a little more of a catch-all of stuff. I have a big colorful bandana, kind of help for signaling if I need to. This is where I keep my compass at, my Sunto MC2, Northern Hemisphere. Then I have a little journal in here. There's a little bitty ink pen down in here. I have some of the compressed coin adventure wipes or porta wipes, little TP towelettes. I have a little bitty boo-boo kit. This is not my first aid kit. This is purely just boo-boo kit. And then in addition to all that, I've got this little micro ready rope, and it has matches down in here as well. There's a little hidden kind of cubby down here that works quite nicely for the matches. So that stays in here. And the only other thing that's inside here is just a little spork that sits right up in here. Get this thing pulled off here. Just a little spork. My wife got it at some trade show for work. It had a little sharp edge on it, a little spork, and a little can opener, and then it just fits inside this sleeve, which also has a whistle built into it. And I just thought it was kind of neat, so I shoved it in here when she brought it home. Oh, and I did fail to mention, on my compass over here, I do always keep a big whistle. That's all that's inside this pouch. Now, diving into the big section of the bucket, and this is one of the things I do like about this bag. When you open it up, this bright neon yellow that makes it easy to find things in here, even when it's a little bit darker. There is a mesh pouch out here at the very back. In here, I've got a pre-set up ridge line, and then just one extra Mylar safety blanket. I usually use that more as a ground cloth than anything, but it's also good for signaling and things like that. And once you get inside here, this is now hitting into my insulation side of the world. So this is the Decathlon Puffy. I did a review on it. Oh, it's been a while back. I'll throw a link to it down in the bottom. I love this jacket, and the price point on it was not bad at all. And I've worn this thing down into the 20s and been quite comfortable in it. It is hooded and down from a feel perspective. I love this thing. It's pretty warm. Now, next up in here is something that's going to be a little bit controversial, because I'm rarely ever going to be able to use these things in Texas. But when I set this bag up, I do go ahead and put them in here, because I do sometimes need them when I go home and go hiking. And these are my yak tracks. I have never used them here in Texas. We only get ice a few times a year, if that. But I have used them at home. Picked them up down there doing some hiking a couple years ago, and when it was super icy, and I've worn them down there a few times, so I always just toss them in here. I would rather have them in here and carry them on day hikes and know I have them when I get there, as opposed to just hoping they're in there. Coming in behind that, there's just a little Carhartt beanie, because I have no hair, so I have to do everything I can to keep my head warm. What else is down in here? Have a little poncho. This is the Anu poncho that you've seen in some of my other bags. I love these things because, one, they're just the right size for you to leaf them out into a shelter, and then at the same time, they do a pretty good job of covering you. So they roll out into a tarp. You just close the hood on it, make your shelter with them, and they do a good job, functioning as a poncho as well. And then down here I have a shema. I never really venture into the woods too far without one of these things. Let's see, what else is down in here? So I have a little SOL emergency bivvy in case I need to get inside and spend the night. This is this is the one with the sealed seams on it, so it functions like a sleeping bag, so you get all the way down inside of it. It's not bad. I have one extra form of illumination. I've got this little Lucy rechargeable inflatable lantern. These things work pretty darn well. I always keep it in here just to have a little bit of redundant light. From a sheltering perspective, other than the poncho, there's this little survival tent that's all Mylar. It sets up with a ridge line through it, and it basically just makes a little triangle shelter, like a little A-frame, but it does have a floor in it. I've never actually used it. I just carry it in my bag in case I need it, and it weighs next to nothing. And then the last remaining item, which I have skipped around down here because it actually stays in the top. I've been letting it fall to the bottom. This is my actual first aid kit. I mentioned earlier that was a boo-boo kit. This is my actual first aid kit, and I saved it for last because I went through and did a review on this the other day, which I'll throw a link to it too, just in case you're curious about what all is inside of here. It does have quite a bit of stuff going on, and it comes in right at about 1 pound. And there's most of the big stuff that I need in here. So it usually sits on top just like this. All right, so the pack's all set up for the winter. At least I think I'm kind of settled in on putting everything in here. Do me a favor as you go through it. If there's something I missed that's just glaring in here, feel free to throw it in the comments. Like I said, I'm not typically in a lot of cold weather areas, but do like having a little extra coverage when I'm out and about, and so this seems to cover all the bases from my normal warm weather day hiking pack. We'll be curious to hear what your feedback is, and hopefully you found this beneficial. And as always, if you're out on the trail watching this right now, just remember, left foot, right foot, repeat. We'll see you out there soon.